So I've got all my macrame cord here, and I straightened them all out. And now I'm gonna take each one and fold it in half so that the ends meet. Just like that. And then with this loop at the end. And so from here, I'm going to loop it over the handle cord here. And I'm gonna make a slip knot or a lark's head knot. So hanging the loop over it and then pulling the edge of the string out. And I'm gonna pull that tight. And I'm gonna start at the edge here where the knot is and work all 12 cords out that way. So you might have an easier time laying this on a table, maybe taping down the edge and working your way that way. You might have an easier time just holding it and looping them over. If you have maybe a door handle to hang it on, you can do that too. Whatever you find easiest. I think I like hanging it the best, but we're just working with what we have here. And so I will get all these on here, and then we'll meet on the other end of this when we're done and go on to the next step. Alright, so I've got all these slip knots in, and I have the kind of the loop end facing me. And so now to secure these in here, I'm going to make a row of square knots all the way to the top. So to make that square knot, I'm gonna work with 2 sections of the cord at a time. So that's 4 of these cords. You're gonna take the left cord, make an L shape with it. Take the right cord, go over, under, through, and then pull that tight. And as I'm pulling, I'm gonna keep these 2 strands here nice and straight. Okay. So that's a half square knot. And then for the other half, you're gonna do, with the right cord, it's gonna make that L shape. Left cord is going to go over, under these 2, and through. So over, under, through, just make that your mantra for the next little bit. Okay, so again, I'm gonna work my way through, and then I'll see you at the end of this section. Okay, so I've got that row of square knots pulled all the way up to the top. I tightened them, and then I straightened out the cords. So that'll be an important step. And next I'm gonna start working on the netting part of my bag. And so what I have here, you know how on cooking shows, the cooks pull out an already made meal at the end? Well, I started doing a similar thing here, where I have this started, so you can see what we're gonna go for next. So we're gonna work this row of square knots. So I've got this one taped to the table. I'm gonna tape this one so it quits sliding on me. And then we're gonna work on these. So as you'll see here, I left about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch between knots. This is gonna make my bag a little bit shorter because I'll be using up more of the cord. You can make your spacing a little bit bigger. Just be aware, like depending on what you're gonna be using this for, your holes will be pretty big once the bag is made and spread out with stuff inside. So, you know, just be aware of that. But the choice is yours. And so yeah, let's work on this row of square knots. We're going to leave 2 out, and eventually this edge is what's going to attach to the side, right? And you'll also see I have both of these frayed knotted ends facing the same way because I want my bag to have that on either side and be kind of symmetrical when I put it together. But again, the choice is yours depending on what look you want to go for. Yeah, you can put it whatever way you want. So I'm gonna get this prepped and then we'll get started on that row of square knots. Okay, so you might want to use a ruler to measure these out. I've seen some people take a piece of cardboard and that's gonna be their spacer that they just place in between each knot. I kind of just eyeballed these and then measured and made sure they were close-ish. I don't mind that kind of uneven handmade look since that's what we're doing after all. So yeah, up to you depending on how much of a perfectionist you want to be. So first thing, these two cords I'm gonna pull to the side. And so we're gonna be working with the next 4. And so you can kind of see it's gonna be 2 from this first knot, 2 from the second knot. And that's how, the bag's gonna be tied together. So again, that same square knot, an L with the left, right goes over, under, through. And then L with the right, left goes over, under, through. So this is where it does become helpful if you do have these hanging, because you could put them together. You can even put them on top of each other to make sure that those lines are even where all the knots are. So I'm gonna pull this in tight. But yeah, sometimes I get kind of messed up if I have too many strings going at once. So I'm just gonna work it like this. I like to kind of straighten out the lines too. And that way you can see, if this is straight, you can kind of see all these are in a straight line too. So that's kind of my method. You'll find your own way of doing things too. I'm a total beginner at this. So I've watched a lot of YouTube videos from other people making things. We have a lot of great books at the library that show you how to do this. So you'll find your own method here. And yeah, I like to kind of just put on some nice low-key music and just make this kind of a little type of mindfulness activity. And we're just, kind of doing this repetitive thing over, under, through, over, under, through. And sorry, I keep kicking the camera. And yeah, so we'll just kind of work together and go through this. And then we'll catch up on the next step and keep going. So definitely work at your own pace. This could take, depending on how fast you want to do it or how long you want to do it for. This could take, 20 minutes. It could take an hour. It's up to you and your skill and how even you want everything to be. I'm taking a little extra time just to make sure mine are looking even. And then the last 2, we're also going to leave unattached. And so now again, we're going to do it. We're just going to go through and tighten everything up. I do want to make sure they're even-ish. And we're not going to attach this to the other side yet. We're going to do one more set of these square knots right about here, and we're going to do it starting with the first 4. So, you know, that first line, we skipped the first 2 chords. Now we are going to include those 2 chords. And you'll see it gives this little loop right here. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right, so I've got this second line finished up and kind of matching pretty evenly. It's not too bad. And so I've started the third line here, and what I'm going to do is connect it on the end. And I'm getting to a point now where once I get to the end of this row and I want to connect this edge to that edge, I'm going to have to lay them on top of each other. So all my strings here are straightened out. I've got 2 from this, 2 from this side. And then same thing, we're just going to do another series of square knots. Okay, so we're at the end of this row, and now it is time to piece this together. So I'm just gonna fold it one end over the other. I have it like taped down here, so I'm gonna take that off and just let it hang so I can lay it back down evenly. And I can see it did pretty good on keeping the 2 sides, like the knots on them, pretty even. Gotta pat myself on the back for that one. I'm gonna tape it back down. I might need some extra tape to hold it in place. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. We're pretty much just doing like alternating. You can kind of see the alternating pattern here. So yeah, this one doesn't have the 2 strings at the end, this one does, this one doesn't, the next one will. And then I'm gonna keep going all the way down with these square knots until I have like a good length that I like. I'll probably leave, I don't know, like 6 inches at the bottom so I can use that to tie the bottom of the bag. So I'm gonna keep going on this, and then we'll see you at the end again. It can get a little bit confusing once you get to the ends, but you'll kind of notice the pattern. Like I just ended this row and flipped it over, and it's down here, so I'm missing one up here. So I'm gonna start with like these 2 on the end, and then keep going, and that's gonna end up matching up with that line. All right, so I've got these rows made up already. Let's see, start with the first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rows down. So you can do as many as you like. I'm only stopping here because I want to try a little bit of a design kind of near the bottom of my bag. This is a little bit more of an advanced technique. So if you're into it and you want to try something new and maybe a little hard, you know, go for it. If not, just skip to the next part of the video where I will show you how to close the bottom. So you can kind of see here, there's this alternating design, right? And on the side, put my hand here so you can kind of see it. You'll see it again. So it goes 1, 2, 1, 2. It's kind of a little hopscotching along here. And so we'll want to end this on this knot where it's the, you know, the 1, not the 2. So we'll call it the 1 side. And then, so we're gonna do a clove hitch next, or it's also called a double, excuse me, a double half hitch. So let's straighten this out. And actually, we're gonna wanna do this on the outside of the bag. So we will flip this over. I've already counted out 24 strands on each side, and I rubber banded this off. So you can kind of see on this 1 knot, I'm taking 2 from that, and that's coming over. And the same thing on this side, I'm taking 2 from that, and that's coming over this side. The other half of that knot is on the back side. So I'm gonna take my leftmost cord. I'm gonna hold that. That's gonna be my leading cord. And with this one, I'm just gonna tie a knot. And so this is a knot in itself, but I wanna keep it more secure, so I'm gonna do it one more time. There we go. And you can see it kind of starts to make this thicker looping pattern here. And we'll keep going. And so the other thing I want to do is find my center. So these 4. And I want to put that to the side. And I'm going to take 2 from this side and put that away. Take 2 from this side and put that away. I'm just gonna start with these at first. Okay, and now I'm going to mirror that on the other side. So find my rightmost cord. So I'm gonna go back. I'm not happy with how this came out. I want it a little bit tighter. So after I show you what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go back and tighten those up. And so here, we're just continuing the square knots. And these are basically to fill in the space. Because these drop down a little bit, so we'll want to keep this closed up. And then I'm going to take the 2 on the sides and pull them into the clove hitch. Okay, so my perfectionist self is going to tighten this up, and then I'll see you in a few. Alright, so I finished both sides, and I went all the way down to, so we made these 2 and this 1 square knot, and so I included those cords into this leading line, into the clove hitch. And now I'm going to join these 2 together, and I'm going to take, I'm going to take the left as my, the right as my leading cord, and I'm going to take the left into it to close these together. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side, and I'll probably go in again and tweak this to get them a little closer together, but it'll probably be okay once it hangs down, and with the other knots that I'm going to put in here. So yeah, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side, kind of making sure that these rows match up, keeping them as straight as possible. And then I'm going to work on the bottom of the bag. So if you are joining us here, and if you've skipped this step, you're pretty much going to do the same thing. It'll look a little bit different on yours, but all we're doing is making a bunch of square knots really tightly together. So if you'll remember, we left this side open, so we had the 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we were on 1, and we're gonna close those up now. Okay, so if you're meeting us to learn how to close the bag and you've skipped this step, hello, welcome back. So we've added this little clove hitch and closed that up. So if you've skipped that, you're gonna end at this last row of square knots, right? All in a row. So now we're gonna make more of these square knots, and we are going to push them up against the last knot that you made. So for some of us, it's gonna be the clove hitch. For some of us, it's gonna be that last line of square knots. If you've done the clove hitch, we made this kind of kept this pattern, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. We'll count this as 2. So down here, we are going to attach the 2 sides again. And then we're going to continue that square knot all the way up. And so for these, you are going to pull them very tight. And then keep going with the same 4 knots. And I'm gonna make 3 rows, keeping that alternating pattern that we've done throughout the rest of the bag, but pulling them really tight. And you don't want to pull them so tight that you're gonna mess up this line. So just keep that in mind. We can always, fiddle with it afterwards, but we'll just try to do the best we can at first. So keep going with these, and then see you when you have your 3 rows. So I only managed to get 2 rows in. Some of these cords are starting to get really short, and part of that is, they were kind of imperfect to start with, and then I use them, as my working cords a lot, so they really shortened. But if you can get 3 in, that's preferable. You'll have like a bigger base to your bag, but 2 is okay. And you can start to see that it kind of starts to curl in a little bit. So that's coming out pretty cool. And so now we're gonna make the rest of the base of the bag. So I'm gonna try to lay these as flat as I can. And we're going to be attaching both sides together from the bottom. We've been doing it from the sides. And now we'll keep going here. So I'm gonna do it in groups of 8 cords. So I'm taking this front knot, there's 4. The back knot has 4. I'm gonna put those together and kind of straighten them out. The back cords are going to be my working cords. The rest of them I'm just gonna hold in the middle. And then the same thing for here. They're just gonna get knotted up. I want to do that ideally like 4 times, but we'll see. I think I might be able to get 3 out of this. Maybe. Okay. So keep going all the way down, and then you're gonna trim these pretty close. At this point, I would use a ruler. You can also put a piece of tape, like masking tape or duct tape, across the bottom and just cut, at the edge of the bottom of the tape. So yeah, I'm gonna keep going with this, and then I will see you at the end, and we'll turn it inside out and we'll see our finished product. Okay, I'm pausing here because I actually forgot a step, but this came out kind of cute. I'm only half done with it, but I wanted to show you kind of what your finished product could look like. So the bottom of the bag could be these little tassels if you wanted it to be, and I don't hate that. But I'm going to show you another option for how to finish off your bag with this same exact knot. It's just that I forgot to turn it inside out. So we were working with it inside out, and then we flipped it, right, to get these knots in, because that's going to be the outside of the bag. But what I forgot to do was flip it again. So I'm gonna untie all these. So yeah, if you like how this came out, with those little fringes that are gonna be all the way at the bottom of your bag, go for it. not you want your bag just to be this kind of knotted, flat surface, then I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so the bag is inside out. You can tell because the outside should have where that slip knot was, and the inside does not. So I matched up the bottom knots as best I could. Did that same technique here with the square knots really tight. I would highly recommend glue in between each of these lines. Pretty strong glue, like a super glue. A Gorilla Glue, maybe, that kind of, I think, expands. Hot glue is okay. So just something strong that you can put in these little slots. I'll tell you, I got pretty close to the edge of these, especially after I made that little mistake and trimmed these. So, I don't know, I don't think it's a crime to go to your next longest string and continue the square knot with that. I won't tell anybody. So once you get all the way across, ignore this, just flip it inside out. Oh, well, first, trim, flip it inside out, and then you've got that on the bottom. So you can really fill it up. This will stretch out. You know, you can't put anything too small at the bottom because the holes are large-ish. But yeah, this is great for big stuff. I call it a market bag because, you know, you can take it to the farmer's market. It's a eco-friendly, green thing you can do. Just bring your own bag and pack it with stuff, and it'll be really durable. Especially if you do use the glue. Otherwise, it should be fine with the knots maybe after a long time, or if you use like really heavy stuff in here, it'll start to weaken some of these knots, but it really should be okay. So there you have it, a couple different options on how to make a design. You know, I say this every single video, but for real, make it your own. Put these knots wherever you want, and experiment with it.